And welcome to the Star Wars Reporter Podcast. I am Baby Yoda to some, and to others, I am, well, that's a surprise. I'm just fulfilling my Jim Henson Muppeteering dream right now. This is my real voice when I'm not acting in The Mandalorian. So welcome to episode 39 of the Star Wars Reporter Podcast. Now let's meet our friends. We have Jason.
Oh, hi. I don't know how to follow up that stunning intro except with one of my own. How are you doing, everyone? Wookie Steve.
That's
Good to see everybody.
And we have Trooper Todd.
Very happy to be here there, Baby Yoda. And I'm on duty right now, but I have like a 5-minute break. I can share some ideas with you.
Right. And of course, myself, the wannabe puppeteer right now. I am making my wife very proud right now, my wife and kids.
I totally thought it was real. I had no idea.
I thought that was actually, yeah.
I was like, where'd you get the budget to do all the CG animation there? It looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I know a bounty hunter who brought him by. So, anyways, welcome everyone. Episode 39. I thought I would try something a little more mature for our show. And
that was surprising in itself.
It was. I was so tempted to blurt out the name of Baby Yoda and the child, but we'll get to that later. But thanks to everyone showing up. We're going to try to do these every week unless real life gets into it. But in the meantime, if you guys could follow us on one of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, that would help us out, and share it with your friends. All right, guys. So actually, before we get started, I just want to make a quick mention, kind of a rest in peace to David Prowse, who died over the weekend. I don't know who the artist of this is. Wayne shared this in our chat earlier, and I just thought it was really nice. So, yeah. So he was 85.
Yeah, 85, I think it was. Yeah.
85, yeah. So he died of cancer. And
I'm not certain about it. I read a report actually it was in fact COVID related.
Oh, really? It said he's been battling colon cancer, what I heard, but they didn't actually say how he died. I just assume it had something to do with the colon cancer.
Yeah. I saw it. I think it's I can't totally verify. It's something I just saw earlier today, actually, but from what I saw, his daughter made a statement and even said so much as they didn't get to be close to him, and because of the circumstances of COVID, he deserves like a huge ceremony and everything, and they're not going to be able to do what they would have wanted. But again, that's something I read. I'm not I can't verify that 100%, but that's the last that I saw.
Wow. It's tough. It's definitely a tough time to lose. Like, speaking of, I lost my father-in-law in September, right? And with the COVID restrictions, and he was a bishop of the Yukon and in BC, and so he's a well-respected man, and you couldn't have a big service for him because of the COVID regulations. So it's really hard. And so somebody like him to pass on and just not, there's so many people who would be mourning his passing, sort of thing, the fans and just people that love the portrayal of the greatest villain in cinematic history, right? Like, it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, that's to say a cliche, but it sort of hasn't hit me. I haven't just sunk in and thought about, wait a minute, it honestly hasn't really totally hit me. I'm like kind of stunned, but it's just so odd. I mean, I was talking with somebody a little bit earlier about it. I'm just like, it's been 43 years. It's coming up on half a century since the original Star Wars. And, it's a time that, you're just been so frightened of in a way, where we're losing. We're really starting to. I mean, obviously this year, but this year even aside, I mean, just the decades are going by, and But yeah, David, it's I don't know, it's heartbreaking, and it's like I said, it hasn't completely sunk into me yet.
There's this interesting picture someone had posted, and it was this. It was probably back in New Hope days, and it was everyone behind the scenes, like they were just dressed in their normal clothes, standing together for a group photo, except for Anthony Daniels wasn't there for some reason.
Yeah, no way, yeah.
And each person that has passed in the group was all kind of highlighted like a Force Ghost.
A Force Ghost.
Yeah,
and the only two left were Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, and I guess Anthony Daniels. That's who's left from the original crew, right? So it's kind of sad. So our hearts and prayers go out to the Prowse family and to all the fans who are mourning his loss.
Yeah.
So I always feel weird going into a segue after something like that. You see that on the news, they're like, this terrible thing happened. And in sports, it just feels weird.
I know.
But we have episode 13 or chapter 13 to talk about.
I think of that too, though. I mean, the way, and we'll talk more about him and, everybody, I'm sure, anyway, we will.
Definitely. But what everyone's been waiting for, what everyone wants to talk about, of course, is chapter 13. The title of the episode was The Jedi, so kind of a spoiler there. So when the Jedi turns out to be Ahsoka Tano, live action. So
yes, wow. Well, I could even start the rambling off. I was really blown away by this episode, and it was like, I almost felt like, I mean, it's all been great, but I feel like I'm like, wow, I needed this episode in a way. Like, it did so many things for me. Oh man, where to begin? But even the feel of it, the environment, I didn't catch who directed it, actually. Maybe one of you guys did.
It was Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni.
Oh, it was himself. Okay. Because the feel of it and the atmosphere and everything was really cool. The planet that they were on. And I was not expecting her introduction. Like, I thought the way the show has been, maybe it would just be a little calmer, more secretive, or later on in the show. I was not expecting such badassness just right out of the gate. I was like, whoa. And I personally,
they didn't waste any time.
Yeah. And they did justice. Yeah, look at that. Even that shot.
I mean, that opening
killer.
Fight.
That was so killer.
Yeah,
and I thought too, as is so often in Star Wars, and you guys can expand on this point, her so many characters, we get to see them, their path. We see little Anakin, we see Luke Skywalker, we've seen Rey, we see everybody start fairly relatively humble beginnings. And the wars and the Jedi and versus Sith and all the experiences that these characters go through in Star Wars is just, it's crazy. It's a lot of tragedy, a lot of war. And so we end up seeing them, like these kind of more somber versions, older versions, like Luke Skywalker, even before Last Jedi. I mean, Luke in the Return of the Jedi from the beginning one. So here we have Ahsoka. And she's obviously, an older Ahsoka. She's been through who knows what even by now.
Right.
So we got her a little more, intense, a little more somber. I mean, everything that's gone along. But I thought the characterization overall for me, I was very satisfied. But man, does it leave me wanting for more.
Yeah. I think I've said in the past, I hadn't watched all of the Clone Wars. I did see Ahsoka in Star Wars Rebels, and I know her story and background. I actually did see the Clone Wars movie before this series.
I have that, yeah.
So I was probably not as excited as other people because I didn't have that 8-year investment. But Rosario Dawson, I think she nailed it. She knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, like for me, for me, Steve, I'm very similar. Like, I'm not caught up in the Clone Wars. I seen the original Clone Wars movie, the animated version in theaters, and she was a character that I didn't particularly care for. I'm in the first season. I'm trying to get through the Clone Wars. I'm in the first season. Again, she's okay, but I haven't developed a following for her yet. And to me, she seems like the new, more annoying kind of student, right, sort of thing, right? So I'm
Right.
not in love with the character. So I didn't have I know a lot of people are big on her. I see a lot of my friends who are on social media and Facebook just told how they're excited to see her on The Mandalorian. But to me, I didn't have that connection to that character. So I was just watching it for, I know who she is, but I didn't have that emotional attachment to her. So not knowing anything. Now, Rosario Dawson portraying her, fantastic. I'm a big fan of hers. Which was fantastic. Overall, I thought it was like Jason was saying, how they set up the planet, the mist, and she's just in there, and she's, it really showed. The white lightsabers threw me off. I don't know why. 'Cause again, I don't know the character. I haven't watched all the Clone Wars, so I didn't know whether they're white. So I kept going, why are they white? So I don't know. Maybe you guys have an answer for that. I don't know. But to me, I really, really, really hated the villain in the story. I thought it was it just seemed so lackluster to me. I don't know why. I apologize, but I just seemed like, I don't know who she was and how she could actually survive as long as she did against a Jedi. Just seemed,
That's one thing I can agree with, actually. That was one thing about this episode. I was thinking when she faced off with Ahsoka at the end, I'm just thinking, unless you've got some crazy wild forces yourself or skills, Ahsoka would, if she went all out. The one thing I thought about, though, and this could be mistaken too, and I'm going to watch this episode probably again a couple times. I took it, though, maybe when they first faced, because I thought exactly the same. I thought when they first faced off, though, they kind of took off their cloaks, so they could move, and there was almost like maybe it was like a respect sort of thing, or where almost like if two people are going to fight and they kind of agree, well, look, we'll just use knives or something. And they maybe it was, I'm just going to fight with my sabers. You'll just fight with the Beskar spear. And that was it. That's kind of maybe what I thought, was that it was like an honored thing. And Ahsoka's like, all right, we'll just fight, a little more on even ground. Because otherwise, because she displayed even earlier in the episode with the guys coming after her that if she went all out with the Force, she would have annihilated that woman.
So she was dumbing down to make, just give her a little sporting chance. Like, she still lost one of her lightsabers. I can agree with the character enough to warrant going toe to toe the Jedi and standing. Not saying she did well, but she wasn't terrible, right? Like, I've seen stormtroopers put a better fight. Not stormtroopers, but in Boba Fett didn't do as good against Luke as she did against her, right? So,
well, the interesting thing about the actor that played Morgan Elspeth was her name. She was like a warlord, right? So, and it's this scene that we were just talking about here, where they kind of meet off. This whole thing here, absolutely, positively samurai movie influence, right? Which is Dave Filoni's bread and butter. It's his love. It's almost, he does view the Jedi and the stuff that they do as like a samurai movie. So he must have just been like peeing his pants when he was directing this entire episode.
Yeah.
And the woman who plays Morgan Elspeth is Diana Lee Inosanto. Interesting thing about her is her father is Guru Dan Inosanto, best friends with a person called Bruce Lee. Oh. Bruce Lee was her godfather.
Oh, wow.
Such Diana Lee Inosanto.
Oh, wow.
So she's a martial artist in her own right?
That's probably, cool.
Trained under her father. Dan Inosanto taught Bruce Lee how to use the nunchucks. And of course, Bruce Lee learned it almost instantly and then blew it out of the water and did stuff that I watched an interview with Dan Inosanto, who's like, of course, he did his own thing. My Muay Thai instructor that I had for like 15 years, he was taught Kali, like Filipino martial art, like Kali, from Dan Inosanto. So, and he actually gave me they're out of reach, the Kali sticks that he used while training with Dan Inosanto. So it's really, really cool. This back in the day when I was doing more martial arts. So kind of a small world there. So seeing her do that, it's really interesting. The perfect person. Like, she wasn't an actress that learned how to do martial arts. She was a martial artist. So I was kind of giggling about that, where using the Beskar spear that she had that could withstand lightsabers, right? It's like, maybe she was just really good at fighting, but not as good as a Jedi, right? Like, obviously we haven't seen a Jedi fight yet where they've used the lightsabers and force powers. So I think that would have been a lot different.
Right. And to her credit, I think Todd meant this too. Like, she did, the actress, and what she did on screen, she was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
But in the context just of the story, like, I agree. Like, and maybe just because we just didn't get enough at all, like, about her, or it was just, okay, here's this person. But
there's not one thing about Mandalorian they don't really do is set up future characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, usually when you watch a series show, like a couple episodes beforehand, or even comic books, right? They'll do a little hint on a character coming 3 episodes from now, right? The little foreshadowing, or explain something. Right? That never happened with her. So it just you come in, and she ruled an iron fist, but as a viewer, it doesn't matter if she was trained by Bruce Lee or or Gandhi. It doesn't really matter. As a viewer, we don't know where she's got all this talent from, right? So that's the biggest thing. And of course, when we're talking about people, Michael Biehn was in the movie.
Oh,
yes, like you know what I'm saying? Like, the guy he has not been in, like, what, Aliens, Terminator, and The Rock. Like, other than that, I don't know what else he's been in. But every time he's on, I don't know why he's not in more things.
The Abyss.
The Abyss too.
Abyss,
right.
Yeah.
A lot of James Cameron film.
Yeah, a lot of James. He was supposed to, I forget what James Cameron film he was supposed to play the lead and didn't get it.
Well, he was going to be in Avatar. Too, and,
he was supposed to be the main character in Avatar. That was my understanding. I just read that.
I think he was supposed to be what Stephen Lang played. Quaritch. Is it Quaritch? Is that the villain? I think he was supposed to be what Quaritch's character.
Oh, yes, okay. That's who he was supposed to be. Yes, you're right.
I thought it was the main character. Maybe that's what it was.
Oh, it's cool.
But even him, I wanted more from him too. Didn't you? He had a big blaster, a big shotgun blaster. But it's just like, I just wanted a little bit more than just like.
It was just a couple of scenes where he was talking to him and to Mando, and they didn't expand on a lot of the characters. I think they were more focused on Ahsoka and Baby Yoda.
But if there's an episode, maybe make it into 2 episodes. This might have been 1, and the reason why I'm just saying this is because you have Michael Biehn. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
I just wanted more because
I was hoping he wouldn't die, and when he got shot, and I'm like, there goes Michael Biehn.
that's my point. Like, if you bring people in that are somebodies, I think you guys got to use them more than what just knocking them off. That's all. Like, again, not complaining about the episode. It wasn't my favorite. I won't lie to you. It wasn't my favorite. I thought, I've seen a few episodes I like much better. Again, whenever the Stormtroopers, I'm more of a fan. But it was good. I just wish these characters weren't knocked off so easily.
You know what's happening, and because we've been talking about this, and even kind of in line with what you're saying, like, the pacing and just how the Mandalorian is going, where it is sort of side quest in a way to get to the main stuff. And each episode we're getting like what could be heavyweight characters and villains, but we never really get too much on them. And as it turned out, like, this was another like Imperial connection with the villains. And it really got me thinking this episode more than ever with this show, and especially with the great reveal at the end, Ahsoka, who she was asking for your master, the biggie at the end, Thrawn. And I'm like, if you're talking about him now, this could be like, I'm not saying they're going to do this, but with all the hints and characters and stuff they're dropping, to me, it's almost like they're setting up for something massive or epic. Because, I mean, Thrawn, that's a heavyweight dude. And with all the Imperial heavies that they've showed so far, the guy with the dark saber, what's his name? The guy who's had the dark saber. And he was
Gideon.
Yes, and flew a TIE fighter and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's like a prestigious villain kind of guy. And I'm like, this show is almost headed towards like, I mean, they could almost do like the Timothy Zahn books going all the way back, like Heir to the Empire and all that, where the Empire was regathered and went against, you know, the Republic and everything at the time. This show is almost planting seeds for like, it's like if you followed every trail, they could be setting up for something massive with this, even though I know it's, you know, this kind of Western, the lonely Western kind of feel. But I mean, it's like you're getting Thrawn in there now. Now you're talking about Ahsoka, and she's talking about, well, maybe some other Jedi will come for the child. I'm like, there's a lot of big forces that are starting to move together.
So what you're saying is maybe they're doing like the Marvel thing. They're planning their big Avengers outing coming up soon, maybe.
Well,
like,
you know,
they build up for big feature film, maybe. Like, you don't know, right? Like,
maybe that's because this is a lot of stuff. This is they're putting in ingredients to me that add up to more than just the Mandalorian doing some side jobs and running around. They're planning some seriously epic storylines and characters in this. And with all the Imperial, there's a lot of Imperial leftovers in this show too. Every planet they go to has been, not every planet, you guys know a lot.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Has been controlled by Imperials. And you've got commanders, you've got Grand Admiral Thrawn now.
Where's he from? What's he from? I don't know his backstory at all. Kind of the story. Is he from?
Very simply, very quickly, in the very first books that kind of rejuvenated Star Wars, 1990, right around 1990, Heir to the Empire. The basic story of all that, Grand Admiral Thrawn is a military genius. He's a guy who it took him about the time of this show, which is wild in the books. As I recall, it was like 5 years or so after Return of the Jedi. He gathered together all the remnants of the Empire, which ended up being a lot. He had a fleet of Star Destroyers and all this stuff. And he's like, we're going to do what Vader could not and all this stuff. And they went at it back against the rebellion. And it involved Luke and Leia and Han. And it was almost like rebooting the original trilogy, but it was to that level. It was like a massive story, and it was the Empire at like pretty large scale force. And that's why I'm saying they're almost planting the seeds of that epic of a story.
It could also be spin-offs, right? Like you hear rumors of an Ahsoka spin-off, right?
Right.
Just like the Bo-Katan one. So different spin-offs that they're going to use.
Right, that's like a whole thing. Well, as Todd said, it's like like an Avengers thing. Like you could absolutely already take all this and make a movie that had sprung from the Mandalorian, but took a lot of these elements. But
and people would eat it up because everybody's chomping the bit for more Mandalorian, right? So to me, it's a recipe that's just going to be churning, and I just be very, very profitable for a company such as Disney to do something like that.
Right. That's a great point. It's been the one thing that everyone's like, oh, it's amazing.
Well, and they're investing. The thing like Marvel, how Marvel did it right, because DC's trying to catch up to Marvel. They do these one-offs and they're trying to make a big movie, which doesn't work. They're taking their time to develop their characters, where if they want to bring everything together, there's gonna be a lot of investment into it, right? So they seem to be doing it right and properly, and giving you a chance to get emotionally attached to these characters that you want to follow into the next journey. Right.
And it's done right too, because I think I've said this before, someone like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, this is a fandom project being made by fans of the project. You know, like these people are Star Wars fans. Like Dave Filoni back when he was called to meet with George Lucas, was like making Star Wars costumes in his garage, to go to events and stuff like this. So, these big nerds who now have the ability to do these, like, you could just tell it feels differently when real nerds make things like this. So
right. Yeah, just the Star Wars sensibility of it.
Definitely. So let's talk about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka.
Let's do that.
Like that, especially what's always in my head is that opening scene. Actually, any of the fighting that she did is what stands out to me. It was so well done. Her whole attitude. It felt like she watched a lot of episodes of Clone Wars.
Yeah,
what do you guys think?
I wonder, and I'll just say briefly, because I know Todd's chomping at the bit to talk about her. That was another thing I really appreciated was what her Jedi ability, and it really looked nice. It was nice on screen. It was like it wasn't totally over the top and overdone. And
Right.
there's always that fine line of you want to see something kick ass. But with live action and Star Wars, you want it to kind of be real, too. And I thought they really nailed it with how she handled how she really nailed it with how she handled the lightsabers and the look of it. I really liked it. I really took to this episode and how they did to her.
So the one thing I always find, like the trick of going from like whether it's comic books or animation to a live adaptation of it sort of thing is, does it look good, right? Do they pull it off? So some comic book movies don't transfer well to live action where,
right.
So you're wondering how's she going to look? She looked fantastic, right? Like the overall look, presentation, the headgear she had on obviously looked natural. Just, I like the fold, like little detail, like little folds, like skin folding around the head crease area, right? Like I said, for a while, I pictured the voice right away. It's hard to see her right away, but it's like, I know this voice. And that's what I kept distracting me because I know the voice. Then when I saw her eyes, I went, okay, I know who it is. And so, and it was pretty exciting because, again, I'm a big fan of hers. Like, I followed her all through the Marvel Netflix series, right? She's in Daredevil, Luke Cage. She's also in, what's the other one? The Chinese guy, Iron Fist, right? So she was in all of them, right? So, big fan like Sin City. She was in Sin City, like one of her early starts, right? She's in Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof movie, right? Again, she's in all these movies that I really, really like, and she's just always a character who, whether the movies are good or not, she's always good. And so, having her in this character role, and again, like every performance I've seen her do, she was good, right? Like she pulled it off. It was believable. I liked her mannerism, like when she was talking to the child and communicating with him through the Force, and just her mannerism with him, right? And just like even the manner she's trying to teach the Mandalorian to, you get the rock, get him to take the rock from you. Like, just she was always calm, cool, and just like a Jedi would be, right, sort of thing. So I just thought her performance was top notch, and the action, like again, for the high and complicated stuff, they probably bring a stuntman for it. But again, what she did was fantastic, and I thought she nailed it.
And you see her in the Clone Wars, this cartoony, and she is really exotic looking, and it wouldn't have been hard to screw it up too. So it's like to take a character that's that kind of exotic looking, and she's orange and all so to make her, what Todd's saying, like just that believable and everything. Yeah, they did a really good job. They really did do a good job. She did a great job.
It's so easy for the fans to turn on too, right? The fans are waiting for they're waiting for an opportunity to really tear the show apart, right? The haters, right? People just like to pick things apart. So this is an opportunity. Oh, look how bad she looks. She look anything like the animated show. They can't say that because they nailed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, especially the fact that the fan favorite for Ahsoka was Ashley Eccleston, right? She did the voice.
Yep.
Yeah, she did the voice, and she's really embedded in the Star Wars community. So when it was announced that it wasn't going to be her, it was going to be Rosario Dawson. So I really didn't see a lot of people getting angry about that. And especially after the episode aired, there seemed to be a lot of positivity, including from Ashley tweeting about what a great job it was, et cetera, et cetera. But to Todd's point, her mannerism, how she was acting, it was very impressive because you could go in a different direction, right? When you have such an important character as Ahsoka is to Star Wars, it could be overdone. And again, then you run into the fandom getting all crazy and lighting torches and going to her house to burn it down. And I think that like the whole kind of how the character was interacting with Mando and the child and stuff, it was just very calm, right? You see the experience in her character, everything she's gone through. Like she seemed calm, and one of my favorite parts was when Mando finally finds her, and she's off to the side talking with the child, and Mando's a little ways away, and he's pacing like a nervous father. And I just got that impression. It was very cool, right? You don't see his face, but I got that whole impression of that nervous father wondering what he's doing with my kid or what she's doing with my kid. Like it just felt he was still kind of protective, even though he's supposed to be this, this hardened Mandalorian, etc. So,
Steve, you bring up a really good point. Like the fact that I'm so impressed with about this whole entire series is you're never really questioning the Mandalorian's emotion. Like you always seem to get a sense of exactly how he's feeling, even though he's wearing a mask. Like one of the big no-nos about you watch any movie where they have masks, like they always take off the mask to let the actor act, right? Spider-Man, any superhero movie you can think of. It was Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. Although the second one they made, Dredd, he didn't. The actor didn't. He refused to take the helmet off.
He was awesome.
And it wasn't it? Like it's very few characters you see will wear a mask all the time. But like you're saying, that pacing, just every episode, you always get a sense of how he's feeling just by his mannerism and his actions, which is really he's not doing anything special, but he is, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't comprehend how hard it's to convey that worriness, the fear or the worrying of a parent watching somebody, right? Like you're saying, the pacing, but it totally set the mood for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of that first time where you knew that he cared for the child. But it was that first time where it was kind of an uncontrolled caring, where he wasn't cool and collected behind the helmet. And, even when Ahsoka was testing the child in that one scene with the rock, it's kind of like that parent that's like, okay, the coach is going to test you. You're like, come on, you can do it. Kick that ball. And it had that same feeling. He's in a helmet. And I just noticed it's like, wow, I can't see his face, but I know exactly what he's feeling like when he's like, come on, do it, and I thought that was really cool, right? And finding out kind of the connection between him and the child, and
he's also in those moments, he's faced with the strong possibility that that may be it. He may be giving the child up. So not just the fatherly thing, but that he does have a fatherly sort of thing, and now he may have to say goodbye.
The realities of it. But luckily, with Ahsoka, we had talked about this before we went live, that opening scene where she's like mowing people down with the lightsabers and stuff, right? Like that's fine. I found that when she was fighting Morgan at the end, it almost seemed she was really aggressive. Like it was like a vendetta to her. Fighting this warlord to get information of where Thrawn was, and you could see that when she was testing the child, and at one point Mando's like, so are you going to train him? She's like, no, I'm not, because he's so connected to you and the fear, and I've seen that before in a Jedi, Anakin, right?
Yeah.
And it almost, you could see the PTSD from her about the situation. Whereas the only time she strays from that calm and collected, cool, experienced Jedi to this, I'm not going to train him.
She had a little definitely a little intense edge in the fighting. I picked up on that. Not just that part too, like all throughout the episode, I was like, wow, she's pretty intense, like almost like kind of pissed. And to me, that gets back to all the Star Wars characters we see. If they don't end up, to the dark side completely, everybody ends up Force wielders, they all end up like, man, they end up pretty serious. Of course they should, but almost teetering, like where they were 20 years ago, they were, hey, like more obviously good. And then they're a little more in a gray area as they get older. They've seen a lot, they've experienced a lot, and things aren't so black and white, and they're not quite as nice as maybe they used to be. And I totally got that from Ahsoka, and I was fine with that because I know she's been through a lot, and the galaxy's been through a lot, and this is many years later now too.
Right.
A lot of baggage, a lot of damaged goods, right?
Right.
They've seen a lot of stuff, and the Order 66 would have been, I'm sure, to live through that would have been very traumatic too, right? Like,
exactly, yeah.
So hey, let's just get to the elephant in the room.
Okay, yes, I thought that would be the
finally. Let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Yes.
Oh,
the child's name,
Grogu.
We finally have a name of the child.
We were discussing this before we went live. It's not terrible, but I think because it's been so long, everybody thinks it's terrible. Is that
right?
What do you guys think of it? Like when I first heard it, I went, "Oh, Grogu."
I didn't know what she was saying at first. When Ahsoka reveals to Mando that the child's name is Grogu, I didn't know what she said. I kind of missed it at first when she first said it, his name. I was like, wait a minute, did she just say a name? And then she had, when he had said, what did you call him? His name, Grogu. And every time he said it, the child would respond all positive. And I think it could be like, Todd, you would maybe as a filmmaker know, was that kind of a way of a filmmaker to say his name is Grogu? And every time the child perked up, was that the director's way to say, look, this is his name. Look how happy he is. Move on, people. He's not the child. He's not Baby Yoda. He's Grogu.
They did it 3 times too, right? I think they did it 3 times. And so that's in TV, movies, it's always called the rule of 3s. So, if you want most movies, everything it's done 3 times. And so that's what I know. So it was 3 times. And I think you're right. Like, oh, he likes the name. So therefore I'm pretty, give it by season 3, everybody's going to love the name Grogu, and there'll be Grogu t-shirts everywhere. I was saying this earlier just because Jason has him behind the shoulder. Kylo Ren. When I watched Force Awakens, Kylo Ren, that's not Darth Vader, Darth Maul. Kylo Ren, I really thought it was kind of lame. I seen the previews of this guy in a mask and this cool lightsaber, and his name's Kylo Ren. Right. You know what I'm saying? But as it went along, I bought in. Okay, Kylo Ren. He's somebody to be feared. To be, So same thing. When somebody first heard Chewbacca, what? Right? Come on, right? If there was no Chewbacca and the child was going on, they called him Chewbacca. We all lost our minds. We would have said that's so stupid, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's totally true. The name will become what it is. And I always used to tell people, like with bands, I'm a metalhead. I'm into a lot of heavy, crazy bands. And sometimes bands have would be weak names, but the music and, for years you follow them. So the name becomes what they are. So Grogu will be fine. I think it'll be fine actually, but it is a little weird at first.
If you had a name tag that said Grogu right off the top, there'd be no one would be even talking about it.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yoda, come on.
Right, it's kind of bizarre, but it's been Yoda forever, so we're just used to it.
And I think people just had fun with the Baby Yoda stuff. But of course, everyone has a different idea of the perfect name, I'm sure. So, I really
had never really thought of it, honestly. I hadn't, and I will do that. I will kind of ponder those things. And I'm like, it never came to me what they were going to call Grogu, what they're going to call the child. I never really thought on my own sort of version, so I don't know. I didn't really have
gave up on it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Go, Steve. Sorry,
No. I kind of wasn't thinking about it, and then when she finally said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I guess we can move on. And second revelation to that, because there was always speculation. His name,
right?
Some people said we don't know if Baby Yoda is a girl or a boy. So there's two revelations: his name, his gender, and he's, his background. He was around during Order 66 at the Jedi Temple.
That was huge, actually. There. That little bit, there was a lot. Right? She sneakily gave a lot of info right there. Like that was.
It was
cool.
like a nice information dump, and so he was taken out by someone, and then Dark Times, and they never got into it, which I think they're leaving room for
expansion. Yeah. I like you guys. Like I never really anticipated to hear a name, and the fact that she threw it out, I was like, she just named him. Like it surprised me, and that's why I think my initial reaction, like most other people on social media, was Grogu. But it is what it is, and now it's there. And like I said, a few more episodes, it'll be like Kylo Ren. We'll just all accept it and move on.
I know. I was looking at the article. It was talking about kind of the Twitter reaction to it. Twitter, of course. And just some of the people saying he's Baby Yoda forever and too bad. But at the same time, there was even more people that were like, Grogu, okay, cool. Like you're right. No one's going to care by next episode, right? Friday, it's going to be like, the Mando's going to be saying the name all the time. Actually, It's funny too, right? When he kept calling him kid, she would say Grogu, which again was the director saying, everyone, shut up. This is his name. Move on, right?
Exactly. And again, that's quite brilliant. I never really thought of that until you mentioned it, Steve. Went, oh yeah, that's a good point. They kept referencing, and she kept correcting him, so at the same time correcting the audience.
And it really stood out, like when he said kid or something, and then she would say the name, that would just frame right on her, and her nice calm voice.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was so clear, and it was like, okay. And after, like, I guess it was like the third or so time, I was like, I think I know what's going on here. It was kind of like when Kylo Ren was telling all the fans to forget the past, burn it if you have to. But most of us didn't listen. So,
and another thing is with this episode too, with the Thrawn and at the very end when she tells him, take off to that world and then bring the child to that mountain on top, that's going to be pretty wild. Right. Yeah. And then, and they left it open too. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, and we'll see what Jedi show up. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, who knows who else we're going to get? It's possible.
Yeah.
Nobody, but they left it totally open for other Jedi to show up. Which is crazy. And the thing about that is, think about where in the timeline this is now. We even though, whatever, he may not be in the greatest shape, but I mean, Luke Skywalker is out there in the universe, and if this child, Grogu, sorry, little buddy, if he's going to be like projecting, force through this, the crystal or whatever she said, the seeing stone, what they're going to set him on.
Right.
And I'm like, well, does that mean he's going to be force projecting like out into the void, like calling for whatever Jedi? I mean, the ramifications of that story-wise, lore-wise, are like tremendous. That's why I'm freaked out over this episode, just because to me, they potentially opened up the scale of what could happen from all this. And like you guys were saying before, even if it's another show or whatever, but to me, this particular episode was just massive because of potential ramifications of where this could all go. And that was another thing about it, was the potential for what Jedi are left and who's going to come for the kid. Right. So
in Star Wars Rebels, there was an episode where the one character, Ezra, he was kind of he was a Padawan. He was being trained by oh geez, I forget his name. Kanan. He was being trained by Kanan, and so they're on Lothal. This planet was kind of like the cruise base. They would kind of fly from there, but Kanan had him go into this kind of little temple area that was in Lothal. It was in this big kind of mountain stone, and he was going there, and I forget what, I was just thinking of it now, what the details were. He was supposed to go in and meditate and, find the Force, etc. And Yoda ends up coming to him and speaking to him like projected, and giving him some wisdom. So, and he was doing that from Dagobah, right? Because Star Wars Rebels was 5 years before A New Hope. So it was leading up to the building of the rebellion. So it's going to be interesting to see Tython, because that was one of those ancient Jedi planets where there was temples there. And from what I understand from reading was that it was kind of like they weren't really the Jedi that they are now. And it was at this point, I think, where some split to the light and some went to the dark around this time. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And sorry, excuse me. I find it interesting where because the Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. I don't know when Luke set up his Jedi Academy or Jedi Temple, but where she's saying, oh, there's no Jedi, and, see who will call out. There's no one really doing anything.
Well, she said I think she said there's very few.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
She would have known. She would have been like, hey, why don't you go? There's this Luke Skywalker guy who just helped save the universe. He's setting up some kind of place. It was just really strange to me.
See, I'm freaking out over that, because I'm like, even if there's 3 besides Luke or something, that's massive story ramification.
It won't be Luke that answers for sure, because what are they going to do? Are they going to make a CGI Mark Hamill at age 30 or something? And
there's a dude who looks like him. What's that guy's name? You could play him. He could do it. They could do it.
Seeing Luke would be so awesome to give him like a proper Luke, opposed to what The Last Jedi did with him. Sorry, I'm just not a big fan of Last Jedi, but just you give him an opportunity to be Luke, like the Luke that,
it would be good. Would Mark Hamill want to come back and reprise that, right? It'd be cool to see, but some people are thinking Ezra or like someone. There was this list of different Jedis, but maybe they could just make up a new person. So
my biggest issue is, where is Ahsoka during the Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back? Why couldn't she help out a little bit?
Yeah,
that's the little plot point I see that's an issue, trying to tie everything together. Although the galaxy's really huge, I'm sure. So I'm sure she was off in some little hermit place, doing her thing. But again, I think what really works for Star Wars, I know the Jedi is huge in Star Wars, but you look at the prequel films where it all really focus lots on Jedis, not usually the most favorite ones, sort of thing, right? Where you have some that have kind of those scummy characters, like Han Solo was huge in the original trilogy, right? Like you have that kind of scum characters, and in Mandalorian is far from being an angel, right? Although his character's changed so much from the first episode. He's learning empathy and compassion for other beings. Like even how he's helping like he freed those people, right? Even like they're like thanking him, and he's like, like you can tell he's changing who he is. He's turning into a good guy, opposed to somebody who really didn't care and he did everything for money. Now he's doing a whole bunch of stuff for free.
It's all like the noble stuff. And
that's a great
point. How interesting is that? A Jedi and a Mandalorian, ancient enemies working together.
That was cool. That
was really cool.
They're doing some really cool stuff with their storytelling, right? Again, we know Favreau and Filoni are doing really, really well, and they're great storytellers in their own right. And obviously, this is what they're doing. It's the whole character development. Like I said, you heard me say before about a couple of filler episodes in the first season where there was no character development, but here there's character development all the time. Like Mando is changing completely from the first episode. And it's a nice subtle journey, right? And
I like that scene too, where Ahsoka and Mando save the day, and he's like, "I guess I'm going to go back and get the kid Goku from ready for you." And so he's back at the ship, and it's that sad scene where he's kind of like getting them ready and getting them packed and sitting with them, and it's not going to happen, right? But then she comes and says, "Okay, you need to go here," and another one of those moments. Even in my cold heart, it was.
That's another good one you pick up on, because, and maybe it's not a big deal, but I just kind of picked up on that. He told her to wait there, and then he was kind of dilly-dallying, as you said, with the child, and he never actually. She ended up going to him, unless I missed that, and he did take off and land. But he told her to wait there at that installation, whatever it was, where the bad woman was. And he never went there. Like, she walked up to the ship, I think, where they were. So maybe it doesn't mean anything, but I just thought, kind of, if anything, I caught that too. And I thought he didn't just go to his ship and then take the child right to her. He was spending quality time, and it took her having to come to him.
Yeah, he was taking his time. Yeah, it's true. Even in the previous episode, where Mando and Goku are sitting and they're drinking soup or whatever, and you never see Mando eat because he's got to go somewhere, take the helmet off. But he lifts the helmet, takes a drink, and Goku's like, "Oh!" Looking when he did that, and he did that twice. And I've read somewhere, like, someone made a good point, like, after seeing Bo-Katan and those other Mandalorians taking their helmets off, and what he learned, he's part of this different kind of cult-like sect of the Mandalorian that broke away. That maybe he's starting to be comfortable with maybe not being so tight with his helmet. So, I mean, if you believe there were rumors in the news, the helmet's not coming off. But it's just interesting showing that kind of, to your point, Todd, of the changes that he's been making, right? So he's becoming not so rigid. Because that first episode, when he gets the fish guy, I mean, he hardly says anything. He's just like that cold robot behind the helmet, right? And now he's like, you can see the sadness. When Goku did the kind of took the metal ball from Mando, again, without seeing his face, he was smiling his butt off behind that helmet. Yeah. So it's just really cool, right? Like the whole change in The Mandalorian, where he's goes from the anti-hero to a more caring hero.
We actually have some interesting comments.
Yes, I would say the same thing.
Oh, they're coming through.
American Nordic, he's making said something about using the dark side. She was only toying with her using the dark side. She's a gray Jedi. Is it referring to
Ahsoka?
Ahsoka being a gray Jedi?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if she was ever
or the
gray
villain
Jedi.
is the villain, the gray Jedi. But no, Yoda's a boy. He won't use Grogu. He said Yoda's a boy. He's refusing to accept the results.
But if you're saying she's only toying with her with that fight, if that's what American Nordic means, when she had the fight with the leader of the installation there, that's actually a good point too. If that's what you mean, but that is a good point. Like that she was, when we were saying Ahsoka would just kick the snot out of that, that woman. Yeah. Just she might have been toying with her. Like, that's a good way to see it as well.
I guess she wasn't trying to kill her because she needed information, right?
Right. So I guess
we never saw her, and she didn't, as far as we know. She didn't kill her. They didn't show her hurt her at all, really. So.
Oh, that's right. So, like, was it just me? I have to watch that episode again. But did she get really upset when she lost her one lightsaber and got a little more forceful with her actions after that?
I felt she was very. I felt that she was just really aggressive as the fight went on. Just her emotions, like the expressions in her face, even like she was really, teeth are grinding, and I just thought to myself, I didn't say it out loud because my wife watching it with me would say, "You're a dork and a nerd," but noticing these little things, like, the Jedi's supposed to be calm. She was almost like Luke fighting Vader at the end,
Yeah, I just thought it was. That's one thing we talked about earlier. It just threw me off a bit because it just seemed like she was putting so much effort into this battle with this person who we don't know anything about. I just seemed like she was too strong. Whether she was going easy or not, I still think if she's going easy, why does she look so upset and so intent and so focused on the battle, right? Because, like you said, I thought she got progressively more intense as the battle went on. Where if she was playing for it, she'd probably be smiling a bit more, not cocky like, but, a little more control, like,
Right.
Although even thinking about it, just as we're talking through this, though, if she was one of Thrawn's main underlings or right hand persons, that would lend some weight to her being pretty powerful.
Thrawn, but here's the situation: as a viewer, you know it, I don't know it, so it doesn't make
Thrawn's pretty big, though. Like,
but again, how many people know who Thrawn is?
There's a lot.
Can't be the only one who doesn't know who Thrawn is. And I think as you're making a show, you have to appeal to all viewers, not just the ones who read all the books.
Well, people are going to learn if people learn who Thrawn is through the show, eventually that would still lend weight to it, because we're not going to know everything about everybody, right away.
No.
But that remains to be seen. That's a good point too. But Thrawn's pretty big. I mean, they crept him into didn't they?
Show a picture of him again, Steve. Show a picture of him again. He looks pretty intimidating. Don't want to interrupt you, Jason. Keep going. Yeah, so go on, Jason.
He's an absolutely badass character. He's totally cold, and he actually gave Vader, like, he would kind of diss Vader by saying Vader let his emotions get the best of him, and therefore he would sometimes mess up in battle. Like, Thrawn is exacting and precise and brilliant. He's an absolute genius military commander, and in a lot of ways he was like almost superior. He was almost like I don't know, he was almost an emperor on his own, but he didn't fly off the handle with anger and with a dark side. He was like totally composed. But in the expanded universe, he's pretty much tops. I mean, as far as the Empire, if you took away, I mean, like the Emperor and Darth Vader, if you're talking about the Empire militarily, it does not get better than Thrawn. He was totally intimidating badass, and he knew how to manipulate people. He's a big character. It's a big deal. It's a big deal that they introduce him into this.
But
I'm actually surprised that he's in the Mandalorian.
Point, Todd, it is true, right? For people that don't know the expanded universe, or he was on the last years of Star Wars Rebels. That's where I really got to know who he was. Mm-hmm. It could have been a part of the story where when Mando and Ahsoka and Goku are together, and she could be saying, I need to get back there. I need information from Morgan. He could have been like, what? I need to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. And then maybe he didn't even know who he was. And then he could say, who? And then she could have said, he's this. And this is why I need to find him. You know what I mean? And then people who didn't know the past could have at least got that little bit of information, because it is true. A lot of the characters are quickly glazed over in the series, right? They're in so much hurry. Like the Marshal, one of my favorite episodes, is such a short episode. The previous one with Bo-Katan, wasn't that like 39 minutes? So
was that the short one? Yeah.
I think that was the short one. So it's like they really glaze over things. Like they kind of tell you who Morgan was. She was kind of like a warlord who then helped the Empire do a whole bunch of things. But okay, what is she doing since then? It's been 5 years since the Empire. I know she's kind of acting like a warlord, but More information would make you
why
care.
does she have so much power? I don't like. Why does people care? Why is she so threatening? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why.
Right.
And there's never like you know Darth Vader was threatening because he would just chokehold somebody, they fall down. Kylo Ren, you know, he was threatening because he'd throw a temper tantrum and just you know what I'm saying. You knew he was something to be afraid of. There is no reason for me to be afraid of this woman except for the fact that she said so. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, I as a storyteller, again, I'm not complaining. I can't tell a story better than Filoni. I'm not. I'm not saying it's not a good episode. I'm just saying, for me, this is where I just wasn't totally convinced, because the villain, the bad guy, is what makes the heroes great. And I just thought there wasn't enough to making me feel like she was a threat. And I don't understand why a Jedi couldn't just handle her much easier than what she did.
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Like,
it's like when she has her and she's like, now tell me where Grand Admiral Thrawn is. It's like, bah, bah, bah. And the next scene, everyone's partying because they saved the city. And all that's going to happen is people are like, wait a minute, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Right away, right? So people who don't know are probably going to be on their phones right then going,
you know what they might have been, they might be thinking with that, though, is like the television, you know, you guys' point is totally well taken. But the television audience may be thinking, I mean, this is a television show, so maybe they're thinking the bulk of the audience watching this are people who are into Clone Wars and Rebels, which they have snuck in a lot of the EU and they had thrown in and everything. So I don't know, maybe, you know, and then of course Ahsoka herself is huge, you know, for being, you know, on TV, quote unquote, versions of Star Wars. So, you know,
but if Thrawn doesn't show up in this series and instead is in an Ahsoka series, people are going to be waiting every episode going, so who is this Thrawn person? Because I'm pretty sure there's been a couple of characters that have been mentioned and have gone to the wayside in the past couple of seasons. So I can understand where some of the
who keeps talking about spin-offs? Like, fans talking about spin-offs, or like Disney executives talking about spin-offs?
I keep hearing rumors, right? Rumors.
Yeah, well, rumors.
The series,
social media.
Well,
because like, that's a lot. You're talking about a lot of money. Like we're talking about every character now. Like everybody's talking about a spin-off. They're not going to make a spin-off of every single character, right?
It would make sense if they were going to do a spin-off. Ahsoka would be the one to do it for sure. Would probably. But I mean, there'd be so many stories. There'd be so many stories for Bo-Katan and those Mandalorians going back to Mandalore to take it back and make it, you know, fix it all up, right? Move back in and fix it up. There could be some pretty cool stories there.
I like what Todd said, like way back when we were first talking about this. Again, this would be my like maybe fanboy thing about it. Like I said, that's why I'm freaking out over this particular episode with all this. But like, if they wanted to do it, it's probably not happening. I don't know, but this could be, you know, like the Avengers thing you said, not exactly, but you could take the major epic elements already of what they've introduced, Ahsoka and Thrawn, and, you know, even if you have like the Marshal in a minor role, whatever, but they're introducing the ingredients of really massive movie level epic stuff. You know, again, Thrawn's story was nothing. Those books with Thrawn were like bigger than the original trilogy almost, in a way. It was massive stuff, and he was the leader of the whole friggin' galaxy when it came to the Empire. So that's why, like, everything, you know, they could absolutely do spin-off shows, Mandalorian-ish, Ahsoka or whatever. But man, they're really throwing a lot into the pot with this now. And I'm like, where are they going with all this? It's got to be going somewhere, man. It's a lot of stuff.
That's what just makes the most sense to me. Like, the fact that they're going to be releasing Marvel series soon with WandaVision, Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, right? And those things are going to help develop the stories and characters for future movies, right? Like, they're going to be direct tie-ins to future movies. Apparently, the WandaVision series will be a direct tie-in to Doctor Strange 2, right? So that's churning, and I just can't see them not thinking about the big picture of this, working this into future Star Wars franchise films.
Absolutely, man. Why not?
Yeah. Do you know what idea I had for a spinoff? And I tweeted this out, and it got some positive. Actually, it got a response from. Here, I'll just put this up here. I had an idea.
Mace Windu. Some American Nordic wants Mace Windu.
Mace Windu. I was thinking.
Yes, Marshals.
Samuel Jackson is up for that. For sure.
So you pull the gunslinger in, the shock trooper, and you have the boss. That's the thing, right? It's the X-wing pilot. My idea was, he's like back. She's like caused a lot of damage, and basically he's the guy that kind of brings them together because of the episode where he is trying to recruit Cara Dune. And I had tweeted this idea out, and I tagged them in it. And the guy that plays the X-wing pilot, he retweeted it and said, "I'm totally in as long as Dave Filoni."
That's great.
He says, as long as Dave Filoni reprises his role of his X-wing pilot was named Wolf something or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was very, very cool, right? It, like people were tweeting it out, and I'm like, yeah, if they make a Marshals, we all know.
They could be like the Star Wars universe answer to the A-Team.
Yeah, well, I mean, there'd be so many cool stories on the Outer Rim, right? Of all these different, like, how do the rest of the universe live, right? In the Outer Rim, it's like the Wild West for sure, and you have them either working together or sometimes, they're in their own episode doing whatever. You know what I mean? I just thought it would be a cool idea, but. It's true. What you were saying, it's like everyone thinks like this person should get their own series. This person should get this own series. That's like I hear so much like this side character should get their own series. Why? Why should that person get their series? Are you kidding me? Like you might think that they're interesting, but they're not. They have 4 minutes on the screen. They look cool, but I mean, you don't need a whole comic series or a whole TV series or a movie devoted to the prequel of like Rose Tico. Like we don't need that.
Don't need it. So I think American Nordic, one of our viewers right now, really likes Mace Windu. I'm guessing
Mace.
He says Mace Windu's going to answer the call.
I should show the man. Where do I have that Mace Windu preview action figure I had for our figure? I had the pre-Phantom Menace Mace Windu action figure.
But is Mace Windu going to answer the call as a Force ghost, or did he not die?
There's a lot of. He could have survived.
There he is.
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
This is my son had it, and I just so this is one. When they made the characters, they made him move and stuff like that. That's stupid.
Hey,
he used to have a lightsaber. So look at his face, though. His face is so intense.
Oh my God! What?
That's like, the Mace Windu falling out of the window.
It totally looks like him too. Like I know it's not focusing on him, but
yeah, he's like screaming. It's like
he's screaming
or something.
That's him like, right as he went out the window.
He's like, Anakin, cut my arms off.
Yeah, he's got an intense look on his face. But yeah, he used to hold the lightsaber and he would swing it uncontrollably like this, like a Jedi would. But yeah.
Yeah, no. One series. I might go back and rewatch it. Actually, I should watch the Clone Wars, but I really love Star Wars Rebels. That was such a great show, and they did bring in a few characters, right? Ahsoka came into it, Thrawn came into it, so it was. I'm
looking forward to redoing that. I'm actually almost through Clone Wars right now, and I'm looking forward to. I watched Rebels, but it didn't. I got to watch it again. I don't know. I was in a weird zone when I saw it.
What season on Clone Wars? So right now, I'm still in season 1. I'm having a hard time getting through it. I don't know why, but I am.
Here's the thing about Clone Wars. It's as it goes on, and I think a lot of people would say around season 3, it really starts to become more and more core, real lore kind of stories. The Clone Wars, you do have to give it a bit of time. And I was going to say this earlier, actually, and it's totally because I thought the same thing. Ahsoka is a character that did the biggest like turnaround for me in Star Wars. Like she does start out as as like the annoying little sidekick.
Yeah, it's sassy, yeah.
Just give it a little bit of time, and she every season she gets more and more, as the story gets more and more serious, she actually becomes, you start to feel for her, you really do. And over time, and she does mature and everything. She will absolutely get better. And she eventually goes through a lot, like directly with Anakin, like as Anakin starts to have trouble. And it gets super intense with her, actually. So Clone Wars, it's definitely worth it. Like, watch. There are a few too many filler episodes. Like, when it concentrates on the main lore and characters, and when Dooku's involved and Ventress comes into it, and later on some more craziness, it's among the best Star Wars ever. But you do have to sift through episodes where you're like, all right, that's okay, but whatever, I don't really care.
So that's what everybody says, right? Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
I used to have a list. I wish I'll try to find this again.
Yeah, people have made lists of essential episodes that kind of just cut right to the heart of the story. Just watch these episodes
from each series. You don't have to watch.
So you could even take a look at that. Like, yeah, there's like lists that have like 25 or 30 episodes. That's just like the best of it, or
which tells the whole story that you need.
Yeah.
Well, that's my goals. I want to get through it. I'm off on holidays from the 9th to the 4th, so I'm planning to. I keep trying to watch it. I'm not gonna lie, I keep falling asleep. I don't know why, but I keep falling asleep. And I don't usually fall asleep when I'm watching stuff. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just I don't know why I keep doing it, but I keep falling asleep. So, but I'm trying.
It's one sweet voice that just puts you to sleep.
We're getting older too, I mean,
well, it's true, but I can watch anything else though. Like I watch right now. I'm also the problem is too. I'm also watching 30 Rock. I've never watched 30 Rock until recently, and so I'm kind of stuck on that show right now. I'm on season 4. Once that's done, my job is I'm gonna move to Clone Wars after that.
Clone Wars will absolutely get more engaging. There are the sort of filler episodes, but it gets better and better as the seasons go on. There's less.
I trust you and Jen, so you guys both speak very highly of it. So I want to make sure. I want to know more about these characters. When you guys are I see how excited you guys get. I just want to have that excitement because I don't know who they are. Right? When I'm watching a Marvel movie and they hint at a certain character, I'm like, whoa, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
I know all the Marvel characters, but I don't know all the different Star Wars arcs. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it though.
Yeah, cool. Star Wars Rebels to me was really great because a great story, great series, but my daughters were kind of really, really, really into Star Wars at that point. And every Sunday, I think we would sit on the couch and watch Star Wars Rebels. And my kids were really into it. So maybe,
and that too is a show that just really ramped up, from the first few episodes, first season to where it ended up. That's another show that really wow, it was a lot more intense by the time you get through it.
I've seen a few episodes of that, and I know I really like that one too. But it's just always hard to get. I was working or coaching or something, so I never got a chance to really watch it consistently enough. But so it's another one I'm looking forward to watching once I get through Clone Wars.
Come on, Todd, be a couch potato. What are you doing?
Well, Steve, my COVID curve's getting bigger and bigger right now, so I'm doing my part.
Don't even tell me about that. Okay, I think we should end it here. I just want to thank everyone in the chat. I was just kind of reading all the questions and the suggestions, Mace Windu, Force Powers. But anyways,
yeah, no, I appreciate American Nordic hanging out with us and some good stuff you were saying there.
So people, whenever we have these, we do it live. You can jump in the chat channel and say how great Todd's toque is. That's ski cap in Canadian language.
Maple Leaf? Toronto. It looks like Toronto.
That is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, that's cool. Canada's hockey team right there.
Nice.
That's one of our 3 cities in the entire country.
They never win, but Canada's hockey team.
They've been pretty good though. There's been some years not too long ago they've been pretty good.
Yeah, they've had
1969.
That's the last time they won. They made it to the semifinals 4 times in my lifetime. One day before I die, hopefully.
They haven't won really. They didn't win the Stanley Cup.
What's that? Sorry,
they didn't win a Stanley Cup.
Well, the Leafs have won the second most Stanley Cups, but they haven't won since 1969 or 67. I should know that. It's the year it's the year they changed the Canadian flag to the maple leaf. Fact. Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Canada made a new flag, the maple leaf.
Maybe we should go back to the Union
I didn't
Jack.
That's pretty wild. I didn't know that.
Now, is it because the Maple Leafs won? I'm not too sure, but it's a fact.
All right, guys. Hockey talk.
Thanks very much. There's
on the next episode of Star Wars. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to check us out, StarWarsReporter.com, social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks to my scoundrels in crime, my partners in crime, and to everyone listening. Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome.
Forgot to do that.
Awesome.
All right. See you later.
Pew, 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 pew.
I hope he sounds like Barry White or something when he starts talking.
Hey.
Good night.